Now, I always knew the marketing and sales team there at Microsoft was good, but to convince our entire community that Pentiment at 120 frames per second was a selling point was good. I mean, you guys can make them pay for anything.
You're making us pay for grapes? Apples? Things that God gave us for free? Ha! You will burn in hell when I'm through with you. You will not be allowed in my Father's house at all.
Quite frankly, ponies, I don't want to go nowhere near your father's house. I don't know what's going on inside of there. But yes, but today we are not here to talk about Pentiment. We are here to talk about the PlayStation community keeping the same energy. You see, not too long ago, they would have said and prophesied that Microsoft was dead or is dead. Microsoft is dying. They are going full third party. And I know sometimes you look so much at your neighbor's house that you forget to look at your own house. You see, some recent news just came out and it's not looking good at all for Sony PlayStation. I mean, if they said Microsoft is dying or Xbox is dead, then what is Sony after all of these rumors and news? You see, for more than a year, the PlayStation community have been boasting of the PlayStation 5 sales. Recently, there was a report that the PlayStation 5 is selling 7% more than the PlayStation 4. Wow, that's amazing. They went on to say that, Spider-Man 2 sold gangbusters. Horizon also sold gangbusters. They went on to say that PlayStation VR 2 is the most advanced VR there is in the world, and it's selling great. You see, the PlayStation community for months would have boasted of all PlayStation successes. So being successful, also being number one in the gaming industry, of course nothing is wrong with the PlayStation business. Of course it's only Microsoft that has a major problem. I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with PlayStation. We are selling well, we are profiting. Don't look over here, guys. Nothing to see over here. Look at Microsoft. Microsoft is who is dying. Correct? Well, today we'll see how that was a lie. And we would hope that the PlayStation community keep the same energy they had for Microsoft dying. But not only that, we would also look at how there was a recent lawsuit that has gone full steam ahead. Yes, this lawsuit might smell big trouble for Sony again, because guess what? It's some big money with a B. So you know what? We have a lot of news to cover. In addition to that, we have some other small news to cover. So you know what? Let's get it.
This is a sickness!
Let's get it. Before we start the video, let's take a look back at Now You Know gaming history. And today we are going to talk about Turok. Yes, Turok, what a marvelous game back in the day. Turok 64. Now this game came out in 1997 and its full name is Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Now this game was a first-person shooter and was developed by Iguana Entertainment and published by Acclaim for Nintendo 64 and for Microsoft Windows. Now, this game would have been anyone's game introduction to a first-person shooter. It was one of the early games like 007 or Perfect Dark or Doom that were first-person shooter. And this game had a very, similar style as the Doom game. Yes, this game was exciting, it was fast-paced, and this game, you could have played it, a lot of replayability with this game because you always found new areas, new secret places to get like new guns and so forth. So Turok was a very interesting game. Did you know that Turok saved its company Acclaim from bankruptcy? Yes, This game sold so well on the Nintendo 64 and on the Windows that it saved its company, Acclaim Studios, from going bankrupt. So Turok have a special place in many gamers' heart. They can remember playing this game for hours, replaying it for hours, and you know it will, of course, go down in history. So Turok, let me know what you played. Did you beat the game? Did you enjoy it? And which one you prefer between Turok and Doom? Let me know in the comment sections below. Of course, now you know Gaming History is brought to you by the subscribe button. So hit that subscribe button for more gaming history, more gaming facts, and more gaming news. So let's get back to the video. So first up, I remember the PlayStation community saying when Sony lost that $10 billion in value, it was nothing. Sony is okay. Well, it seems like Sony loves that 10 billion number because a UK tribunal is ordering Sony, might be ordering Sony to pay $10 billion to the gamers in UK. Let's listen to Screen Rant as they give us the inside scoop of what is going on there.
PlayStation US, why players are asking for cash payouts from Sony. Sony will have to go to court due to a new lawsuit that sees many PlayStation players demanding cash payouts from the company. A new lawsuit sees many PlayStation players demanding cash payouts from Sony, and the company will now need to defend itself in court after the case was accepted. If the lawsuit is successful, these players could be owed up to £562, approximately $711, depending on how much PlayStation content they've purchased since August 2016. A main reason for this is the pricing of modern gaming. In recent years, the price of games has increased significantly, with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S X generation seeing the standard edition of AAA titles releasing at approximately $70, with companies citing far greater development budgets as the main reason. Deluxe editions that predominantly contain digital content such as skins or in-game items often cost a further $20 to $30. Recent collector's editions have nearly doubled in price too, with the PlayStation exclusive Marvel Spider-Man 2, which had the main selling point of a 19-inch statue and the digital deluxe suit contents, costing $229 at launch. This is $80 more than the first Marvel Spider-Man's collector's edition on the PS4, which retailed at $149.99 and arguably contained more content, featuring a similar statue, an art book, and the full The City That Never Sleeps story DLC, alongside a physical copy of the game, something most modern PlayStation collector's editions have replaced with digital copies. The claim against Sony comes from Alex Neil, a consumer champion with nearly 20 years' worth of experience leading consumer campaigns and achieving change for UK consumers. Neil states the reasoning for this claim on the PlayStation US, believing that Sony has been exploiting its UK customers since, at least the 19th of August 2016, as the business model of gaming changed to favor digital media over physical, reducing the number of places players could purchase some titles for the platform. The claim also addresses live service titles, albeit none by name, saying that they're designed to incentivize players, including children, to spend as much money as possible to progress, unlock more features, or customize their experience with new characters or weapons. The claim cites a breach of the UK and European Union's competition law, alleging that Sony has been using its control over the entire PlayStation ecosystem to overcharge players for digital games and in-game content, rather than simply making a profit. The claim lists the following as its main reasons for this belief.
So it's time that somebody stood up to Sony, and I'm happy that this gamer here was able to do it, file a lawsuit to really address what Sony has been doing for years. Now think about this. Think about doing all of these anti-gaming stuff, making it very difficult to get refunds or overcharging on certain games, and yet still this is what happened here with Sony not too long ago.
PlayStation is laying off 900 people, and the studios being affected include Spider-Man developer Insomniac Games, The Last of Us developer Naughty Dog, Horizon Forbidden West developer Guerrilla, and more. Even worse, Sony plans to shut down the entire PlayStation London studio. Here's a picture from 5 days ago of the London studio celebrating Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan and wishing him well in his next adventure. That is depressing.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Now that is cold-hearted to believe the London studio threw Jim Ryan a farewell party and all of them lost their job. What kind of craziness is this? There is no way somebody could convince me that Jim Ryan did not knew that the same persons that he was eating and drinking with would not be coming to work the following week or so forth. That is insane to me. But the question I want to ask is why? Sony is number one in the industry. According to these ponies, they are making tons of money. They are selling tons of software. Why is it number one in gaming laying off so many of its employees? I thought everything was okay in the camp of Sony.
The PlayStation London studio was working on a new PS5 co-op game set in a modern fantasy London, but it seems like that's going to be cancelled now. The news is shocking since Sony just said that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game of all time, but it looks like that's not even enough to avoid layoffs. And for those keeping track, that brings the total game industry layoffs to over 7,000, 70% of all of the layoffs of last year, and it's not even March yet.
Wow, I thought the PlayStation community said that Sony is okay. Why is Sony laying off so many workers despite making record profits, despite selling record consoles, despite selling record software? Why are they still laying off employees? And don't make the parallels between Microsoft, which is the world's richest company, laying off 1,900 workers compared to this, because we know that Microsoft has much more employees than Sony has. So 1,900 workers being laid off is 8% of Microsoft as a whole, and Sony laying off 900 workers is 8% as well. The only difference is that Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, and it is the norm that anytime you acquire such a big company that layoffs are obvious, because if Activision Blizzard has its own human resource team, if Activision Blizzard has its own procurement team, it's obvious that Microsoft would have already have those teams in their company. So it makes no sense to have two human resource teams or two procurement teams. No. So retrenchments is obvious. Retrenchments is something that would curb redundancy. But it had no acquisition when it comes to PlayStation. So this makes it worse. But you know what's funny about this whole thing? Some in the PlayStation community was very vocal when Microsoft laid off 1,900 workers. And they're saying, this is not console warring. They are speaking up because this is good for the industry to talk about the unfairness that Microsoft did to the employees. But all of a sudden now, at that PlayStation has laid off, 900 employees, they are blind.
Oh, no, I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen nothing. Matter of fact, I'm blind in my left eye and 43% blind in my right eye. I don't see much of nothing. Matter of fact, I can't even see you, sir.
But you know what's the funny thing? Now J-Dub is the moral beacon for talking about laying off. He is saying, or he retweeted, don't console war with these layoffs. Now, how could J-Dub say that when he himself have been the number one person to be talking and using the laying off of workers from Microsoft as his main ammunition in console warring? This is what J-Dub did. This is what King Trash did. Most of these bozos have been talking about laying offs that Microsoft did, and they used it as ammunition in the so-called console war. Now, all of a sudden, they are taking the moral high ground. No, keep the same energy. If it is bad for Microsoft to let go workers, it's also bad for Sony, being the number one in the gaming industry, to lay off their workers. Let's be real. So let me hear about what you think about all of this. Let me hear what you think about all the layoffs happening in the industry. What do you think would need to happen in the gaming industry so that we can reduce these laying off? Is it that the executives, both on Microsoft side and on PlayStation side, could take a pay cut to save some of these workers? Or is it that let's start a clean slate, let's get rid of the redundancy and really work on being lean in the industry? Let me know what you think about all of this. in the comment sections below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.